You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
And hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. Grant McAuley, Jake Mastroianni with you, and the winning streak is over. The Braves had won 8 in a row. They ran up against Max Scherzer and the Mets. They gave them a battle, but they came up on the wrong side of a 9-7 score on a Wednesday night at Truist Park. We had ourselves another rain delay, which added to the game, but it was kind of you thought it might turn into a bit of a back-and-forth affair, but the Braves were not quite able to find the comeback and the runs that they needed in order to really put this thing over the top, as the Mets were able to hang on, win by a couple of runs, get back in this series. And, of course, they'll be able to turn it over to Jacob deGrom on Thursday as he will pitch the finale for the Mets. And we've got an awful lot to talk about, as the Braves will have a big man on the mound in the finale as well. We're going to get to all of that, recap this game, get you set for Game 4 of the series. Before we do, as always, I want to remind you to subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube. We are over 3,000 subscribers. If you're one of them, we thank you. If you're not, please consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on those notifications so you get alerted every time that we drop a new episode. And, of course, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Well, Jake, the Braves got down early against Max Scherzer, which you know is going to be a tall order most nights. To their credit, though, they were able to fight back in the 7th inning, put some runs on the board, but the Mets found the insurance runs they needed late. They pulled the Edwin Diaz lever again. Buck Showalter did in the 8th inning. So you know these games mean a lot to both teams, and it was the Mets who grabbed this one by a couple of runs.
Yeah, look, you knew on paper coming into this one, you had Scherzer, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, a Hall of Famer, going up against Odorizzi. It's going to be a tough battle. And if they were going to win, you were going to have to keep them off the board early and hang around in there. Weren't able to do that. And those early runs, and even you got to credit the Mets, they just continued to add on late in the game as well. And those end up becoming key runs because the Braves did try to come back late and had a chance there in the last inning. I had thought that ball from Ronald was going to get over Marte's head, but wasn't to be. And the Braves end up scoring 7 runs on the night, but still losing this game.
Yeah, not too many times do the Braves score 7 runs and lose a baseball game, but that was the case on this night. And the Mets do what good teams do, and that is add runs to your lead throughout the evening. They hit 4 home runs in this game, a couple by Starling Marte, a big one for one of their young and heralded prospects in his first game in the big leagues. And, of course, the back-to-back home runs in the first inning, not a bad way to get yourself on the board early, make a statement. And the Mets were looking for their first lead of the series. They got it pretty much immediately against Jake Odorizzi. Let's jump into this thing and get you the line score of game number 119 for the Braves, as the Mets improved to 76-42, 9 runs, 14 hits, no errors, 7 men left aboard. Braves now 72-47, 7 runs, 7 hits, 1 error, and 3 men left. Max Scherzer, the winner, 9-2 on the year, pitched 6 1/3 innings, was charged with 4 earned runs, though, as we'll talk about in a minute. The Braves did get a rally going there in the 7th, though some of that work was done with him out of the game, of course. Jake Odorizzi was not able to get past the early barrage of home runs against him. He drops to 4-5 on the year. We'll talk more about his appearance in a moment. No save in this game, 3 hours, 22 minutes, plus a 34-minute rain delay, 34,308 on hand to see it. And it was an entertaining game, if nothing else. I think I've said many times on this that you can win ugly, you can't really lose pretty. But as far as the entertainment factor in this game, the Braves gave the fans there something, and they gave the Mets a bit of a finish as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, they at least put a scare into them. Again, you got to give credit to the Braves offense for fighting back in this game. And look, they brought in Diaz in the 8th inning. And the only unfortunate part, I guess, is that you let them score enough that they didn't use Diaz for the 9th inning and perhaps burn him for Thursday's game. So, but, again, you did put a scare into the Mets. I mean, you're right. It was exciting there in the end, a couple of times bringing the tying run to the plate. And again, like you said, you had Acuna there in the 9th inning as a tying run as well. So, I mean, look, it all comes down to the pitching. And when you got a game against Max Scherzer, you gotta have better pitching. You have to match that. Not too many games are you going to score 7 runs in a game started by Max Scherzer. The Braves did that because of the pitching in this game early on for Odorizzi, who, to his credit, came back out after the rain delay and at least kept the team in it and kept it right there. But again, you just can't have those kind of outings early on against somebody like Max Scherzer and expect to win a game.
No, winning against Max Scherzer is going to be a tall order just about any time. And I would say there were a couple of different plays, a couple of different moments in this game in which you could just say that, hey, this was the fortune of the Mets on this night. And for the Braves, they came up a little bit short. Dansby Swanson just missed a 3-run homer to center field. Brandon Nimmo made a nice catch on that. That kept the Braves from being able to score perhaps a few more runs in the third inning against Scherzer. He wasn't the sharpest that I've seen him this year, but Max Scherzer not razor sharp for an inning or two. That's something that if you don't take advantage of it when you have an opportunity to, then you're probably not going to get too many more chances. That's how good he is. We both know that. Jake Odorizzi, though, early, the back-to-back home runs by Marte and Lindor, and then the rookie Brett Baty with a home run in this game, and, a big one for him. His first swing in the big leagues, and over the wall it goes. 2-run homer, his family in attendance. Great for the young prospect for the Mets, as we've seen a lot of young guys for the Braves come up, have their moments. Vaughn Grissom most recently, but, a little bit of fun for the visiting team on this day, and good to see his family on hand to get to really soak all of that in. That is a huge moment for him and for everybody in that family, that whole support system for him.
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, again, the Braves have seen it, from a couple of guys this year, and yeah, I think it's becoming, a trend just overall in baseball. The game is getting younger, and you're seeing these young kids be able to come up right away and just have the confidence to succeed. I mean, again, we've seen it, case in point, with Michael Harris and Vaughn Grissom, who, oh, by the way, had a couple of big hits late in this game again tonight. So, I mean, it's becoming a young game here. And yeah, you had Brett Baty come up and have that big home run, and really just kind of gave the Mets a big lead early, which they needed, obviously after losing the first 2 games of the series. You got Scherzer on the mound. They came out punched often in this game. And again, just too much for the Braves to overcome.
Yeah, Jake Odorizzi in this game, 5 innings, 5 earned runs on 8 hits, couple of walks, 2 strikeouts, 3 home runs allowed, of course. That was kind of the tail of the tape, though, no pun intended, early on, was the Mets offense. Once again, I mean, you got Max Scherzer on the mound. You've already got that going for you. 3 early home runs, so kind of beating the Braves at their own game there in the early going. But as the game unfolded a little bit more, obviously the rain delay kind of set everybody back a little bit, at least half an hour it was. But Max Scherzer came back out. Jake Odorizzi came back out. Brian Snitker did say after the game that he felt like Odorizzi made a nice little adjustment or two that allowed him to at least get himself into the 6th inning. Of course, in that 6th, the Mets scored a 5th run, and every run in this game, as it turned out, seemed to be pretty important. It seemed like it was just this game of back and forth and chess and decisions to be made about how things were going to play throughout this game. And, one thing, it's kind of, I guess, maybe the butterfly effect or something. In some of these games, they just kind of go that way where the Braves could get just close enough to feel like maybe they could stem the tide in this game, but not quite able to get the big hit to be able to do it. We'll talk a little bit more about the Braves offense in a moment. Before we do, I want to remind you, as always, Coffee AM is the official sponsor of the Braves Postcast. Go to coffeeam.com/lockedon today. Get a look at their full menu, coffees, teas, gift sets, all kinds of great stuff there at coffeeam.com/lockedon. And make sure you use the coupon code LOCKEDON at checkout to get 15% off your first order there as well. Coffee AM is the best small batch coffee roaster in America. Braves offense got things going in the 7th inning as Max Scherzer finally started to wear at least a little bit. Now, the damage that was done in that frame, mostly by Robbie Grossman, a big 3-run homer for him. But right before that, Vaughn Grissom hit into what could have been an inning-ending double play. Replay was able to overturn that call. Grissom's hustle really left the door open for the Braves, and the big home run off Adam Ottavino by Robbie Grossman. And I've been impressed with what Robbie Grossman has done. And I think that something we've learned here over the past few days, especially, is if you are hitting and you have the opportunity to, get into the lineup for the Braves, that you're probably going to get your number called. And right now, Robbie Grossman's a guy that looks like he's going to be in there every day, whether it's a lefty or a righty on the mound. And 2 home runs in as many days for him. It looks like he might have figured some things out from the left side.
Yeah, look, another, great addition by Alex Anthopoulos. And I thought the at-bats have been great since coming over. And I thought he kind of gave the lineup a change of pace as somebody who can work in it back, can take some walks. The guy had a bunch of home runs last year, was having a down first half this year. And, Alex did that at the deadline last year with some guys who had some bad first halves and maybe you thought could rebound in the second half. So hopefully we're seeing that with Grossman. And you brought him over thinking he was just going to play against lefties, but the at-bats had looked good on either side for the switch hitter. So, yeah, keep running him out there. I know he made a bit of an error there later in the game defensively, but that was on a wet surface. Yeah. I thought he's actually looked very good out there defensively. Made a great catch earlier in the game as well. I think he's been solid out there. I'm not Gold Glove, not Adam Duvall type defense, but I think he's been pretty good out there. So, yeah, I mean, I like the Grossman addition. And like you said, you're hitting, you get to go in there each and every day.
Yeah, and the Braves did do some hitting in this game. You mentioned Vaughn Grissom. That's another star for the Braves in this one. Couple of hits, 3 runs knocked in, 2 more runs scored, 2-run single in the 9th inning, and it helped get Ronald Acuna Jr. up there with the Braves having a chance to tie this game. I know there's a couple of different things we can look at in this game as we, kind of start to shift our attention towards Game 4 and Jacob deGrom starting against what we have determined and learned will be Max Fried coming off the injured list. So a big marquee matchup in Game 4 to talk about in a moment. But I do want to go back. 7th inning as the Braves had their chance to make it a 1-run game, and in fact, they did. Ronald Acuna Jr. was caught stealing in that. Typically, I'm a big fan of the aggression in that, but you kind of, in hindsight, wish that Dansby Swanson at least got a chance to swing the bat there with Ronald the tying run already on base because, with that speed, if there's a gapper, there's a chance for Ronald Acuna Jr. to score all the way from first base. That did not work out. Of course, we mentioned that Edwin Diaz came in a 1-run game already in the 8th inning. I know the runs were scored off Jackson Stevens in the 9th, and I know a lot of people have wondered, what do you do there? Why is it Jackson Stevens? Personally, I think that this is kind of the opportunity where you're not going to throw Jansen unless it's tied or you have a lead. Raisel Iglesias threw with a big lead in Game 2, but not out there here in Game 3. I feel like that's kind of the luxury that you go out and get another guy with closing experience to be able to perhaps bring him in those games and in those situations to help keep a game close. But I do understand that, there's a different school of thought for games you're trailing and then against, games that you already have a lead in as far as your high leverage guys and how often you use them.
Look, Minter, McHugh, Iglesias, you could have used any of those guys over Stevens, in my opinion. Your offense worked so hard to get you back in that game. I think you owe it to your team to put one of your high leverage relievers out there in that spot. And look, maybe you do, and it remains a 1-run game, and Diaz comes in and strikes out the side as he is prone to do.
Yes.
But still, that maybe burns him for the next game. And, the Braves have a powerful lineup. Maybe they run into one against Diaz and tie the game up. So I didn't love the decision at all. Again, I like I said, your team worked so hard to get back into it, and you throw Stevens out there, who in my opinion is the 8th man in that bullpen. I just didn't love the move. And oh, by the way, Snicker wasn't coaching at that point as he got ejected earlier in the game. So I didn't love the decision there for Ronald stealing. Look, he's got a green light. Mm-hmm. It took another perfect throw, but
great throw.
But I get it. Ottavino was on the ropes there. You saw Acuna score from first on a ball in the gap from Dansby the night before, so he can do that. But I mean, I'm okay with Ronald running. I agree. I would have liked to seen Dansby get a shot or two there to take a swing at Ottavino, who was struggling and on the ropes. But most overall, I'm not going to get mad at the aggressiveness of Acuna because more often than not, he's going to come through there.
Yeah, more times than not, it's a net positive for the Braves. I will say this about Diaz, because a lot of people have kind of presupposed that if he does throw 2 innings, that means he's automatically going to be gone on Thursday, or there's a high probability he will. Keep in mind, he hadn't appeared in this series yet. He made very short work of the Braves in the 8th. If he were to do the same thing in the 9th, which, as you mentioned, and as anybody who's watched Edwin Diaz this year knows, there's a very good possibility that he could once again do that in the 9th. I don't think that there'd be any limitation or any hesitation to go to him in a high leverage situation in Game 4. We'll find out, though. He only threw the 1 inning in this particular game. Braves were able to get close, but not quite enough, able to put enough together to get over the hump and get past the Mets, who held the lead throughout this game. They grabbed it early with a bunch of home runs and held on for the 9-7 victory. We'll talk about Game 4, get you set up for that. Before we do that, though, I do want to remind you that if you're out with friends and a few drinks becomes a few too many and you decide to drive anyway, wondering what's the worst that can happen, I would urge you, do not find out. Drive sober or get pulled over. This is brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Actually, before we jump into Game 4, Jacob deGrom and Max Fried and the implications of these two aces going at it, Freddie Tarnok did make his major league debut in the 9th inning. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what a great moment that is for him. Obviously, he may be the guy that goes out as Max Fried comes off the injured list, but good to see Freddie Tarnok get called up, get into a game, get a couple of outs, including his first major league strikeout.
Yeah, no, I texted you during the game. I thought maybe it was an opportunity for him to come out after the rain delay, or even when it was, 5-1, 6-1 game, because I personally just wanted to see him, pitch a couple of innings. But it was great to see him come in, at least get his feet wet in the big leagues there and get that first strikeout on a beautiful changeup right there. So, yeah, happy for him. I've always loved Freddie Tarnok. He's one of my favorite prospects. So hopefully we get to see him again down the road.
Yeah, let's hope that he gets the opportunity moving forward. I know the Braves like him an awful lot, and hopefully we'll have a chance to discuss him on future editions of the Braves Postcast. As for Game 4, with this win, not only is the Braves' 8-game win streak over, they now trail the Mets again by 4.5 in the NL East, and it's going to be Jacob deGrom on the mound. We knew that all series long for the Mets, but we found out after the game it will be Max Fried coming off the injured list where he was placed last week, the concussion IL, as he was feeling those symptoms a couple of days after he took that tumble at Citi Field. He face planted there. I thought he might have hurt his shoulder. I know he hit his head on the turf, and it took him a few days, I think, to kind of get the cobwebs loose a little bit and start feeling normal again. So he's been able to go through all those progressions. I saw him throwing the last couple of days. So good to have Max back on the mound, and a big spot for this. This is where you need Max Fried in games that you feel are must win and a chance to beat the Mets in a series, keeping in mind that New York has not lost a series to an NL East opponent all year long. Max Fried 10-4, Jacob deGrom 2-0 with a 1.62 ERA. Fried at 260 on the year. This is as good a matchup as you're going to find, I think, between these two teams.
Yeah, and you mentioned must win, and I know there's still several games left, a lot of games left, but this does feel like this as far as the division goes. This is a 2-game swing, in my opinion. You lose this game, it's a split series. You gain nothing in 4 days, come off the calendar. You win, you're 3.5 back, and you're feeling a lot better about your chances down the stretch. So I'm glad Max Fried is healthy. I'm glad he's able to be out there because, like I said, you're facing guys like Scherzer and deGrom. You can't expect to put up 5+ runs as the Braves eventually did on Wednesday night. You're going to need somebody who's going to be able to match them early in the game, and Max Fried is certainly somebody who can do that. So hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's able to come out and throw a good game, and hopefully the Braves can take this series and gain that game on the Mets and come out of this series just 3.5 games back.
Yeah, I think you laid it all out right there. It's a 2-game swing. The Braves need this win. They turn to Max Fried. He faces Jacob deGrom. It's Game 4 of this series, 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time, the first pitch at Truist Park. That'll wrap us up here on the Braves Postcast, part of the all-new Locked On Sports Atlanta. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and, of course, subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts. As always, I'm Grant McAuley. He's Jake Mastroianni. We come to you after each and every one of these games in the series, and we'll be back with you after the Game 4 finale. Braves come up short in Game 3. 9-7 was the final score. We look forward to talking to you again after the finale on Thursday. And until then, so long, everyone.